Happy days and welcome, of course, to another wonderful Extreme Business Set Mind series episode with, of course, the fantastic wise of all wise in the business world, Lee Anywhere, and myself, Paul Rees, tailing on the back of it all. Absolutely. I mean, we do have some amazing off-chat conversations. Actually, that's not for this YouTube, not for this video, but you know what? If we want to go into the depth of the deep of the deep, well, who knows what will come later on next year. There may be the after hours, as Lee puts it, you know, but hey, there's an invoice to everything in time. Otherwise, there's no point in business. And here we are this week, Lee. The subject this week is really, here we go. And I'm so excited about this one because it's such a reality. It is, can I afford my business life? And what I mean by that is, am I an investment or am I a cost? Am I an investment? Am I a cost? So many people, you know, they have guilt purchases, panic money, panic buy-in. And the worst of all is everybody sees everything as a cost. Oh, I'm networking. How much is that? No. What's the investment of that? Everybody, so 99% of people I meet in life, their money alignment is all over the place, and they wonder why they're always practicing poverty, because poverty is a state of mind. Broke is a place in life. And so many people keep reaffirming money disappointment because of money envy and all these things. Yeah, so, you know, that's
some are broke and broken.
Am I an investment in cost? Can I afford my business life?
Gotcha. Well, some are broke and broken.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There's two levels to broke.
Yeah. And then you got, and what you find normally, and bear in mind, nothing's a science, but to take away the noise, because if you don't take away the noise, so bear in mind, there'll be people agree and disagree, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But sometimes as well, when you disagree, yeah, or think differently about it, that's fine. But can you substantiate your opinion? Can you substantiate your thinking? Can you take what you know, put it into an audience and get the same response? Because universal is right bang in the center. So if we go into investment or spend, normally spend language is somebody that's not in business. That's one. Mm-hmm. However, this is where it sounds, hold on, that's not right. No, it's not right, because there's a transition part. So if you've got two circles, let's say there's this circle here and there's this circle here. You got that and you got this. So this is investment and this is spend. However, when the two circles, there are a part where the two circles cross over. Mm-hmm. Like a pair of glasses. Yeah, it's the two part. Now in this here, yeah. Because in business, it's an investment. In life, it's a spend. So personal is spending, business is investment. Yeah, but what happens is when you get this crossover, is you've got people transitioning from a job into their self-employed, what they call a business, and language, just being respectful, honest, true, sincere, genuine, honourable, not disrespectful. Is being self-employed still means you're employed.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Right. And it doesn't mean you've got a business. It means you're self-employed by running a business. You're employing yourself, which means you've created your own job, which means you're still in the spend mindset. But to get into the business mindset, you have to look at it as an investment and as a transition. Now, when you bring your VA, I've got two VAs, yeah, you're still self-employed. VAs, virtual assistants, if they ain't earning money, are they an investment or a spend? Mm-hmm. So if you've got a virtual assistant that's doing stuff for you that actually creates income, but if they're task-driven, and you've got too many tasks that you're delegating out, and so you think, well, corporate clients do, as in corporate entities, businesses do that. Yes, they do. But they have no metrics. So when we bring somebody into our business, there's a few levels to it. If you're the product, so let's say whether you're a plumber or whether you're a speaker, whatever, if you're the product, then you're the commodity. You're the asset. So if it's a plumber and you're self-employed and you're going out and you're working, yeah, and you're getting, I don't know, prospects, leads, referrals, and or you're running your adverts, Facebook or local paper, whatever, and you're getting business from that, but you're doing the pricing, you're doing the invoicing, you're getting a virtual assistant to do the invoicing, fair enough, and you're breaking the steps down, because if you're getting, say, when you go out, you get 100 quid an hour, for example, just using that as a metric, and you go out and do a plumbing job, and you earn you get 10 hours work, and you get 1,000 quid, and then you come back, and the invoicing still got to be done, the VAT's still got to be done, yeah, the accountancy still got to be done. So if you've got a bookkeeper before the accountant, or however you do it, you haven't earned 1,000 quid, because your money, that 1,000 quid you earned, now you've got to pay the bookkeeper to do the VAT, say, you've got to pay the VA to do the invoicing. So you haven't earned 1,000 quid. Your revenue was 1,000 quid, and now you've got to pay all the other people out of it. Yeah. All right, you've got your VAT on top of it. Yeah, so you've charged plus VAT. So you're in a job, just earning a lot of money, getting paid well for your time. Now, a business is, you might start your business that way, and then you get another plumber who's a good plumber. You might tweak him. He's a good plumber, but is he reliable? Is he this? Is he that? Is he quality of work? And you bill him out at 100 quid an hour.
Okay.
And you pay him 30. Now you got business. Because now you're earning 70 quid an hour on somebody else's time.
Do you think, then, Lee, if we look at in the SME world, we look at those small businesses that have 2 or 3 people that are working for them, what we're saying is that you can have people working for you that are a cost and people working for you that become a profit. Now,
they're all necessary, but the problem is you do get, so for example, if I take it down, and I have to be very careful with the language because it can be heard in a derogatory way.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about any value of any human. Every human's to the same value. The tasks they do aren't.
Okay.
And whether that's male or female, it's irrelevant. It's the task you do that creates the value in the marketplace.
Okay.
And that's one part. The task you do that creates value in the marketplace. The experience you bring to that task is the reason you get promoted and the reason you get the higher salary. Because some people, the overthinkers, the imposters, the people that take a week to make a decision, yeah, they're a cost in your business. Experience is somebody that knows what to do and how to do it, however, cannot get caught up in their historical data. Also needs to be aware and be able to listen, because the market's always changing. However, business does have a fundamental frequency and system. And the closer you stick to that system, and it does adapt depending on what markets you're in, yeah, because the market will change. So how quick you can adapt, how versatile you are, and how quickly you can get your message in. But if you're an overthinker, you can never adapt. You're an imposter.
Oh, wow.
Because, and then you fake it till you make it, and then you're back into like there's nothing honourable. But what people do is they hold on to what they want. So, for example, I'll throw it out in a different way. Concrete jungles, cities. Yeah. You think, where's he going with this? Well, sometimes, like the cities around in Ireland here, it floods. And then they go climate change or this or that and the other. And it could be, I don't know. However, the earth is organic. It's growing every year. A concrete jungle, the concrete's at the same level and everything else is growing around it. So over 100 or 200 years, the ground has gone up round it. And you think, oh, no, it's not the case. It is the case. The earth is growing by somewhere between sort of about 6 to 10 mil a year. You think, how's that relevant? Because if you're not growing and you're like a concrete jungle and you're fixed in one place, but the market's always growing, it's always adapting, it's changing. And when you look at government, and I'm not, yeah, there's government, but governments, they don't understand business. They think they do. They put tariffs on this, VAT on that, tax on this, tax on that. And I'm not against it. However, a lot of times humans, their biggest flaw, business people or in government, is they want everything to stay the same because it's predictable, which means they don't have to adapt, which means they can train. But the market now in the digital age, it's changing so quick. And the ones that ain't going to change with it, the ones that sort of aren't going to get on board with certain technologies or tools, they're going to become the dinosaurs. The whole industry is changing. The high street's going to change. Car models are going to change. Everything's changing. Now, we're within that change. We're within the transition. So we're sort of like when we go back to the circles, yeah? Everybody knows this bit and everybody knows this bit, but the transition in the market in this piece here, that's where money's made. If you're in because you're in between two worlds. But if you're an overthinker, then you're broken, and that will make you broke. You can hear it the right way, the wrong way. Nothing wrong with getting stuff right, but if the awareness is to know what is playing on your mind, because if you leave it playing too long, you're actually in the spend mindset, because you can solve that problem much quicker by going to a good consultant or advisor, whether that be a tax advisor, whether that be a solicitor. I mean, so many people have asked me about contracts. Well, I say I'm not a solicitor. Well, surely you use a contract. I even had top coaches say, Lee, do you have a contract? I do. Couldn't send me a copy of it, and can I reinvent it? Now, because they're trying to save money, because they see the contract as a spend rather than an investment. Now, I spent the money for a contract. I bought a high rope system once here. It takes about 70 people at a time, 2 levels, and it has leap of faith and everything like that. Now, when I bought it, just to do the contract, now I could have bought it, just gave the money, got the receipt, but it had to be took down from where it was, which was on a private estate, and transported to my private estate and reassembled. But when it's on a private estate, on somebody else's estate, I have to have insurance to indemnify. I have to have health and safety protocols. There's so many different variables. And if something happens there, I can end up being sued. The contract, just to safeguard my employees, me, my business, my family, was $3,500.
Wow.
Just to have the contract drawn. And you might sort of think, well, I saved the $3,500. To get the thing took down was $6,000. So the contract, I mean, just to draw a piece of paper up, cost almost like half or over half of what it took to take this big steel structure down. But the contract was an investment. Now, what happens is most times people in business, back to spend and investment, is they're spending their money and not investing their money. So if you're a coach, you're a business consultant, have a good contract. And have a solicitor write up for you. And don't bargain basket.
Bargain basket, I love that.
Because what happens is, you're a solicitor, and can you do that? Now, a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, my wife's best friend, and I've known her like 40 years, she is a barrister. Now, I could have got her to write the contract. However, that isn't, and she is very well trained, and anyone that knows me that listens to this will know who it is. However, I didn't get her to write the contract, because I could have probably gotten her to write the contract. It wouldn't cost me nothing. But she's not a practicing barrister. And things change. And because she's not in that frequency of doing it every day, she might drop the ball. All right, I've got somebody to blame. But it's not about blame or shame or guilt, regret. Well, I listened to Paul and it's all Paul's fault. No, it's my fault for not picking the right person in investing. Now, I bought a load of land once in Sussex, near Chiddingly, and I ended up landlocked. Now, I had a good solicitor and I ended up landlocked, and I had an honourable solicitor. And I said, now, it didn't end up landlocked because of when we bought the land, I could get in and out. And then the farm beside me, who we sort of shared a driveway, got repossessed by the Leeds Permanent Building Society, and they locked me out.
Wow.
Now, and what they said was that the owner, because I purchased the land off of them, didn't register the right of way on the title. And I don't know, it's not my job. Yeah. So I went back to my solicitor and I said, well, what do we do? This and that and the other. It was all the drama. I said, right, let's take the noise away. Who's responsible? I said, I'm not blaming or guilty. And who's responsible? He said, I am. I should have seen it. I said, fair enough. What's the next step? He said, you have to claim on my indemnity insurance. You have to go to another solicitor. He said, you have to put a claim in. But I already knew that.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do. Because the consequences of that in business, even though I knew this guy had done loads of business with him, there's always a consequence in business if you've got a contract. But if your contract ain't done, there's loads of, I do business with loads of people, there's no contract. But they're more like friends and people like that. But when it comes into clients, there's a contract. Everything's lined up and done and it's signed and it's not like, and what a lot of people do is they focus on the front end too much, as in get me marketing right, get me brand right, get this, get that, get the other. And then they get the client and then they ain't thought about next steps. How do I onboard them? What's the contract? What's the commitment? Because what happens is sometimes you get the client on, and if you've got good clients, you'll have good relationships with them.
Steve, do you think that, because here's a thought, well, from what you're sharing here, is that so many people almost use emotional personal money in their business, and that's why it's a cost, because they see the money as actually their money, not the business money. Do you think there's a difference?
Yeah. And this is it. An entrepreneur, no. A true entrepreneur, no. Entrepreneur knows already the difference between an investment and spend. They do know. In the old days, in the American market, they would call it guns and butter. Yeah, guns meant, I don't know, it's just American language. Gun meant you were investing in something. Butter meant you were consuming it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so hear it this way. If I'm a life coach, yeah, and I'm communicating out to the market, then I'm actually a spend and not an investment. I'm actually really an investment, but I won't be seen that way. I'll be seen as a spend. Why? Because they're going to pay me out of their salary.
Yeah.
When I'm doing B2B, I'm an investment because whatever the investment they put into my services as a consultant or a coach, or even working with some of their broken team to get past their drama, I'm a business write-off, which means I'm not coming out of their profit. I'm coming out of, so you get a salary 100 grand a year, and now you get me on board as a coach. You're paying for me out of your salary. Because you're paying for me out of your salary, then I'm a spend. Now, if I'm increasing your value in the marketplace or in the employment sector, then I'm an investment. That's why people pay for business masters. That's why they pay to go to college, because they see college as an investment. However, if they're at college and they're drinking, staying up all night and cramming, then they're the ones not investing. They think the investment is the money. No, the investment is the time, the same as anything. Their investment is their commitment to the task. Because don't expect to go in cramming, and drinking and staying up all night or not going to class and coming out at the end of it with a certificate and thinking then that because you got this piece of paper, because you were able to cram for a week before an exam, because a piece of paper is a memory test. And then you come into the employee, like the employer, depends who interviews you. You get an interview by an entrepreneur, you'll get a proper interview. Because an entrepreneur, somebody that knows the game well, somebody that started the company, which very rarely happens because it gets delegated down. But sometimes they've got people employing people that don't know what they're doing. They're just good at interviews, asking questions, being wholesome and polite. Yeah, what type of questions you're asking? Are they involved in sports? What difference does that make? Are they a team player? How did they get on at college? Did they get honours degrees? What difference does that make? It means they're committed. Yeah, we don't want people coming in here. You want me to pay them a salary and they're going to show up on a Monday half hungover from the Sunday. They're going to give me 10 or 15% of what they can on the Monday. And then Tuesday, they're getting their arse in gear. Wednesday, they're back on the ball. Thursday and Friday, they're waiting for the clock to tick. They're there a spend. And they go, well, I'm good at this. I went to college. I've done that. And then what happens is they moan then at the water cooler or whatever because they get passed over by promotion. Why do they get passed over for promotion? Because somebody has seen you. The actors and actresses in whether they're in the business world or whether they're in the employee world, those days are going.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why they're going, and anyone hearing it, hear it real and hear it true. Why? I speak to a lot of business people. I speak to a hell of a lot of business people. Some of the people I speak to have like 500 to 1,000 employees. And they're shaking the wheat from the shaft. They have to. Interest rates are higher. Yeah. The market's changing. They have to. So a bit like when Elon Musk went in and bought, Twitter. What did he do? And everyone said, you can't do that. You can't do that. Of course he did. Going to shake the wheat from the shaft. And he did.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, you can't do that. Oh, boss can do anything they want. They say, we can't do this or this regulation, that regulation. But yeah, the regulations or the processes they put in by government, they're there to protect most times the employee. However, where the feast is coming from is from the business. So all employees have to line up and they have to follow the rules that's put in place because some employers take the absolute mickey. Yeah. So there's both sides to this. However, the one thing the boss, whether that's the CEO or the person that built the company up from the ground, always has to look out for, are the employees committed? Have we got too much on administration? They might be very good at their job. Have we put too much corporate structures in place? Because that's pulling down on metrics. Now, that's not a problem to a company, a big company. Why? Because that comes off of their tax bill.
Yeah.
And some of the government incentives are they want people on the workload. So, for example, if we go back, say, and take it this way to the 40-hour week, the 40-hour week changed the whole market. And that was the government objective. And the reason it was the government objective is because when we go back further, is what happened if we went back to, say, the 60s, the workforce was preliminarily men. Mm-hmm. And they hear that the right way or the wrong way. I'm not saying it was right or wrong. It was primarily, I can't even say the word. It was mostly men. And women, rightly so, entered the workforce. Like they were in the workforce, but they were in the workforce in a different element. And they became more prominent and dominant in the workforce. Mm-hmm. Now, bear in mind, the reason it was primarily men, a lot of people think in say, the market, it was men being chauvinistic. It wasn't men being chauvinistic. It was a specific type of man that was being chauvinistic, a man that was in government. Mm-hmm. Wasn't the everyday man. Now, it all changed after 1947. That's when it changed. See, the Second World War done it. And the reason it happened then was, if we'd had a little bit more of a gap between the First World War and the Second World War, it probably wouldn't have happened. And the reason it happened was there was a decrease in population. And because so many men died in the First World War and the Second World War, there wasn't enough for the next generation. And a lot of people think because of Europe, we haven't had another war. No, we didn't have another war for a long time because we didn't have the population to go to war.
Wow.
And if you look at history, you'll see it. You'll see it with the French and the English. You'll see it right away through the Spanish. You'll see it. There has to be a gap for the population to breed. And they're a bit like R&R. And you think, what's this got to do with spend and things? Because there's too much control in the market. And if you look at it as satellite view, the reason when women enter the workforce, and rightly so, hear me the right way, don't pick on me on that bit, but it was politics that changed it. The education at school of how women were taught was politics. Mm-hmm. That wasn't misogynist. That was politics. They taught women or girls where they belonged, and they taught men where they belonged, and they were taught that. And if they diversed away, and thought, well, and they got punished for it, or they lost their job because of it. And you take it into sort of in the UK, like I mean, whether it was with different races, whether that be with the Irish or the Africans, they were discriminated against, and that was politics. Mm-hmm. And now it could be with employers, it can be dogma.
Yeah.
Because now, if I bring it all back to home, is Europe is like seen as this dominant force in the marketplace, and it is a dominant force in the marketplace. And you've got to hear that one, dominant force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it controls. So now the cost of living crisis, the the reason it's there is because of politics and control. We've got too much administration in government. And that means we've got too many people that are getting pensions and salaries from our taxes. On top of that, they only give you the income tax figures a lot of the times. But what people don't realise is when you go into a shop and you buy your stuff, you park in a car park. If you pay for the parking on the street, that goes to the local authority. When you go into the shop pays rates to the local authority. Then you buy your produce, and whether it's if you buy alcohol or cigarettes or anything that's got VAT or duty on it, that goes to the government.
Mm-hmm.
Then the fuel you went there, whether that was by bus, train, bear in mind the train, you're paying VAT on the ticket, you're paying, and what people don't realise is you're already paid your tax.
Yeah.
And you're going in and you're buying these products from the business. And the business, the metrics, the business have to go right. They have to like bring the stuff across. So if the government said, well, there's no duty on fuel for lorry drivers driving across from Europe to the UK to deliver produce to Tesco's or Sainsbury's,
Mm-hmm.
no farmers pay any duty on their fuel. That it's done because I mean over here you spend 150 quid on fuel, 100 quid of that's going to the government for duty and VAT. Now, because I'm a business, I can get the VAT back. But the average person, as in the person in a JOB, is paying €1 more per gallon. Yeah. And like I'm paying €1 per gallon, but I can get 21% of whether it's back. Mm-hmm. So I'm paying 80 pence or 79 pence. But the homeowner, the person in the JOB, is paying €1. Why is that relevant? Because the cost of living crisis is not because of business. It's because of government. The structures we have in business are not because of business owners. A lot of the times they're because of government. And the people in government that's making the decisions don't understand business.
But not to dive into, this
politics.
Yeah. But here's the thing is, could we see, really though, is tax, so as someone that's in a JOB, I'm not running my own business, but let's say you're in a JOB and you're paying taxes, you got national insurance, you got your tax out your salary, then all the other things are add. But doesn't that add to the investment of our quality of life of living on a safe?
Well, it does. But it also adds to a lot of people's quality of life that don't work. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But when you've got a higher percentage of the population, right. So when we break population down, we break it down by age. So we've got sort of certain age. Now, when they brought in the 40-hour work week, they also brought in that kids years ago, 14 years old, could get a job. Now it's seen as like some form of abuse. It's not abuse. It's actually good skills for people to learn. Yeah. But forget that. So now you've got to be a certain age before you can work, which is fine. But then you can't, if you go into a full-time job before you go to college, your salary is really low. Who do you think decides that? And then they brought in the minimum wage and make out they're doing something really good. But what they're trying to do, the reason they brought in the minimum wage and they've done it that way and they capped the age is because of the housing crisis.
Okay.
Because they don't want the kids leaving home. Because if the kids get a good salary, they can leave home and afford rent, which means there's not enough homes. The reason they brought in the 40-hour work week is because there was a job shortage.
Wow. Is this your conspiracy or is this what?
No, this is, I mean, you look in history, it's not, this isn't the made-up world. This isn't the fantasy world, a bit like John Malkovich in the film when it's in my head. You can see it in the real world.
Yeah.
And people then, when people don't like it, and then you got the people coming around telling you, if you want to change it and you want, so for example, is when you get 100 quid and it's my wages, whether I'm a teen working or whether I'm an adult working, it's 100 quid. And I'll go and buy a suit, a new top, new pair of trainers, a belt, a handbag, whatever. 23% of that is VAT. You can't claim VAT back on that. So let me take it into an industry where you really hear it, right on the bone. And we're only a couple of months away from it. Christmas. Christmas, right. So now you got, let's say, I don't know, Toys R Us. And bear in mind, good brand, not putting the brand down. Toys R Us. You got the employees working in there, getting their money, yeah, and whatever. But let's say this one applies to business and to people that are in the JOB. Because the people in business are no better than the people in the JOB, and the people in JOB are no better than the people in business. But the one in business has a lot more responsibility, a lot more pressure on them. But forget all of that. It's not it's half a dozen, 1/6 of the other. So you and I got 11 kids. So I've got to go out at some point soon with Roz Christmas shopping. So I would have worked, let's say, all year, for example, in my JOB, my self-employed environment, and I've got my money, and we go much to the bank, love, but is this. Bear in mind, we've got Christmas dinner, Christmas shopping, we've got to visit family, whatever, yeah. And we're budgeting, let's say. So how much do you think it's Christmas? We've got 11 kids. I mean, grandkids as well. How much do you think it's going to cost us? So let's say, just for example, it's going to cost us... You got it. But let's say, just for example, keep the numbers easy, it's going to cost us £1,000, and we go into Toys R Us. And we go in with our shopping list and we spend £1,000 on toys. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now we spend it because it's coming out of our salary. Whether I've took it as my salary out of my business, or whether I've took it as a salary from Paul's paid me. And I'm going to spend £1,000. Have you ever seen the size of Toys R Us? Yeah. Big old shop. Yeah. Have you ever asked how much the rates are for Toys R Us?
No, I can imagine just to heat the place must be a nightmare.
Never mind that. Just the size, the rates, yeah? Because the rates are going to the local authority.
Okay.
So now, let's say that Toys R Us earns £100,000 a year. Right, you with me so far? Now, on that, let's say their rates is £10,000, which is 10% of their overall gross. It's a lot more. Yeah, 10,000. Now, for them to get £100,000 a year, 100 people like Lee and Roz going, and Paul and Debs and that, and they spend £1,000. So they got 100 customers spending £1,000. Now, their overall take, their gross revenue is 100,000. Toys R Us. Now, Toys R Us has then got to pay the local authority 10 grand for rates. They've also got to pay the 23% to the government for the VAT. So now we're at 33%. So £330 of the money I spent in Toys Masters, has gone to rates and VAT.
Wow.
The person that made the toy, the person that sold the toy, the person that put the toy on the shelf, the person that drove the toy, the fuel to put the toy, the materials to make the toy, and the government gets 33%. And I'll tell you, they're getting a lot more. And you know the sad bit of it is, the money I've gone in to buy the toys with, the £1,000, I've already paid tax on. And now they're going to take another £330 out of my money.
Wow. Would you see this, though?
So that's a spend. That's a spend. And I'll tell you why.
That would be a cost, then, you say?
No, that's a cost, definitely. Do you know why? Because that's what the cost of living crisis is.
Wow.
When you go to get your hair done, you get your nails done, buy your handbag, get your get your specs at Specsavers, all of it's going to be VAT and tax. You've already paid your tax, and you go, well, yeah, and they go, well, there's not enough to go around. They need the tax, your income tax. That's what they talk about. Then you got your speeding fines. Then you got your council tax. Then you got your VAT on your sewage and your water. You add it all up, and you see why there's a cost of living crisis. And the reason inflation's gone up is because the government are trying to hold inflation at a certain level. They decide when now they separate. I think it was Gordon Brown that separated with the Bank of England. There's so much politics. So if we really want to go to spend and investment, where it gets real is you can blame the business owner, you can blame the government, you can blame yourself. If you're not investing your money and your time, it's not just money, it's time, in the things that secure your future. Whether you're in a JOB or a business, if you're not focusing your efforts and investing your time in the most proactive areas of your day to earn you the most proactive, get you the most proactive results or earn you the most money. If you're too busy running around, or on your phone escapism. Flick, flick, look. Oh, you see this on Facebook? Because it's not so much the spend or the investment, it's the consequences on mental health. And it's not I'm pushing a narrative against the government. It's that, well, this is how it's got to go. Well, it ain't. It ain't. Because when we can spend, or like, I mean, when you look at it, you only got to look at the news today, yeah? And it's not, I'm not getting political or whatever, but when it comes back to the everyday, and everyone's talking about the cost of living crisis at the moment, fuel prices, electric prices, all the electric comes from the government. All the electric is owned by the government. It was designed that way. First place to be lit, as far as I knew, in the UK was a place in Brixton. And I'm sure you've heard the song Electric Avenue by Eddie Grant. Yeah. Brixton was the first street, I believe, to be lit by, that's why it's called by Electric Avenue. That's why it's called Electric Avenue. And electric's one of the things that's pushed it up. Fuel's one of the things that pushed it up. But every government is putting duty on fuel. And then but fuel affects everything. And so we've got to, But go on.
Is that really true though? Let's think about this. And I want to come right back to the human being of what cost and investment is. So everything we're talking about here actually started from somebody's idea of how we should be taxed by calculating their view on what the sums are. So let's just look at this and say, okay, I run a business, that person runs a job, this person works high-end government. Let's look at it in a sense of, I run my business and my business says, I say to my business, I am Paul Rees and I have a CV that qualifies me to run my business and make it successful. Or I am Paul Rees that has a job. I have a CV that qualifies me to be paid 70k a year to make your business successful. Or I run a country, I'm getting paid £4 million a year in order to make the country successful. Let's look at what is then the invoiceable value of your ideas values. Let's go there and say,
and that's the point of it, see, because
what is the invoiceable value of your ideas? So I
agree with that. Yeah.
I'm coming in and saying, Lee is saying, guess what, Paul? I'm going to pay you £100,000 a year to run my business, but you have to give me £300,000 worth of invoiceable ideas, or you're a cost to me.
Well, that's the point. Because and this is where a lot of people, I think, so we take it back to the shop. And the reason being is every problem we've got to solve is under the ceiling of all the regulations the government put in place. And I'm not saying they're bad or good. I'm not saying that. I'm just speaking the truth. So I'm not pushing it out there. And every person they stack on that job makes us work harder. Every new incentive they come out with, or every grant they give, they've got no money, but they've got the grants. They've got no money, but they can issue millions of pounds of aids, like aid out to the foreign country. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. They've got no money, but they can spend billions on jet aircraft and bombs and everything like that. God knows the environmental footprint on one of them bombs. I don't know what the carbon is from that, but that's another story. But we've got from the ceiling down. So when we take it right down, everything in business has to be invoiced. So if Paul's coming, Paul's working for me at 100 grand a year, if Paul's only at work and I'm paying him 100 grand a year, and he's not producing more than 100 grand a year, he's a cost. He's not an investment.
That's we're talking about ideas values here now, because
there's ideas values. If the ideas are practical, we brought into the thing. I mean, it wouldn't be hard for me to sit down with somebody I did the other day. Bloke wants to scale his business from basically up to 100 million a year. Yeah, and he wasn't quite sure. And an hour and 15-minute call, he got his 100 million idea from one coaching session, and he knew it. And not only did he get the idea, he got the market. And do you think he comes back regularly? Oh yeah, regularly. He comes back twice a week to me. Why? Because I know the market, and I'm learning all the time, Paul. I mean, things are moving so fast nowadays. It might be I'm getting older, but I would consider myself a smart guy, and there's a lot of smart guys and girls out there. But where we need to be smarter is this: is if you've got a seesaw, yeah, the seesaw represents the business or your salary. It's whether you're in a job or your business, but yeah.
Wow.
Is that you have to, if you're getting paid 100 grand a year, you have to really you have to put a bit more in than 100 grand a year. So you hear it this way, you've got somebody on a checkout in, say, a supermarket. They're getting paid 10 quid an hour, let's say, yeah? And they ring the till up at the end of the day and they go, I've earned the company today 30,000. How have you done that? Well, I've 30,000 on till roll every day. Yeah. And I work here like 5 days a week. Every day, on average, I'm ringing up over 30 grand worth of goods. So that means I'm earning 30 grand times 5, yeah, 150 grand for them a week. And do you know how much they give me? They give me 500 quid. 500 quid for 30 grand, I think they're consuming me. Yeah, what about the lighting, the rates, the insurance, the product, all the other stuff, the shelf stackers, yeah, the warehouse managers, the managers, yeah, and this is where, when we get into it, is if what you're doing your part on the till, what about the refrigerators if it's a supermarket? All these things have to be took out. But when we're in our small segment, it's not that we're stupid or whatever, is we can only look at it from our perspective. And what I think people need to do is they need to look at it as a bigger perspective. So, I mean, if we really want to take this down to spend and investment, yeah. So if you're on social media, if you've got Netflix, it's brilliant. I enjoy Netflix. I've got Netflix, Paramount, whatever. But are the channels you watch, are you investing your time and medicating your time?
Oh, wow.
Why not do an audit on what's an investment and what's a spend, whether it's in business or in life, whether it's you're in a JOB, but don't do the blame bit. You can hear it like I'm blaming the government, and nor am I getting quick with my language. There's a lot of administration in by people that we call the government, and the government doesn't exist. The government doesn't exist. It's a corporation. That's all the government is. It's a registered, it's a certificate. No, that's all the government is.
Wow.
It's a certificate. It's a corp. That's why you think they call local government corporations. It's a corporation. Yeah. But what exists is the people that sit on these committees or these councils. Bear in mind, a council is more prominent than a committee. Yeah, if you take that into the corporate world, you've got the board. That's like the council. Then you've got like managements, and they have their meetings. That's like a committee meeting or a leadership meeting, whatever. The reason this is relevant is you've got to have a family meeting or you've got to have a business meeting. You've got to look at your metrics, because at some point, if you want to change it, if you want to put down, go through your shopping, whether you do it online or whatever, and I go to Tesco's and ask them for a VAT receipt. They say, what? But bear in mind, they can put the ingredients on the packet, but they won't put the VAT down on the docket. They stop kids' shoe size, I think, is at size 5. After that, the reason the shoes are more expensive at size 6, because they're VAT. But I've got girls here. I mean, I have to buy adult clothes for some of my kids, shoe size and everything. Yeah, and I can't buy kids' clothes and they're kids. And I'm paying VAT on clothes, kids' clothes, and VAT on kids' shoes, and I shouldn't. And the reason they've done that is because some women, their feet size don't go over like 5.5. They go, and the government, they've worked it out. Same as life insurance, same thing. Yeah. Life insurance, they work out the metrics. They know more about when you're going to die than you do. They know everything about you. Why? Because it's a numbers game. That's all business is a numbers game. So spend an investment, write down just 1 week, just do it for 1 week. Oh, you'll be absolutely shocked. Work out your mileage, work out the price of your car, work out how much duty or VAT was on your car when you bought it. Bear in mind, in Ireland, they put VRT on, which is about 40%. So the same car in the UK costs us 40% more in Ireland. Yeah, truthfully. And they do it on this carbon emissions thing. It doesn't matter. They're really pushing. But here it does great on some bits. But just hear me on this. Get a list. Write down where you're spending your money first. Just do an audit like you would in a business. Yeah. And if it is a business, do an audit on your business and where your money's being spent at home. Write down everything. Do it. If you could, do it over a month. Your Netflix, your broadband, everything. Write it all down. See your expenditure.
Yeah.
And then look at it and see as an investment. Not, oh, we need that. No, you need electric. You need fuel if you're in a car, or you need to use some form of transport. What happens if you didn't? I mean, you think, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And that's certain things when they're putting it on the cost of living, they're controlling the main commodity. When there's
are there necessities though, investments and there are costs and investments? So when we think about electric, we have to have electric. So is that a cost or is that a necessity?
Well, it should be. I mean, if we went back to years ago and it was called British Rail, for example, private investors made British Rail. The government went and took British Rail away from them and made it government. And then years later, they sold it. The council houses they bought and then they sold. And because they didn't want the maintenance. So when it comes down to it, is that electric was government owned. Government should never make a profit of the people. So, and you can hear it, I'm slating the government, I'm not. A lot of the problems we're having is, one, we're not using our money wisely, and two, the people that sit on these committees that are called government haven't got a clue, because they're getting a high salary, they've got a state pension, and they haven't got a taste of the real world. And they're putting VAT on this and VAT on that and VAT on the other when we've already paid our taxes. So it's not a gripe at the government. It's how many people are aware that that's happening. When you're going to get your hair cut and you go in, you pay for your hair, and it's like, I don't know, let's say a tenner. It's not a tenner. There's 20% that VAT. If I pay for euro parking or a pound parking outside on the street, the government's just got another pound out of me. Bear in mind, years ago, you didn't have to pay for parking. You paid your road tax. Your water sewage was part of your rates till the government separated it, and then they took it out as water, and then they took it out as another thing, and they kept separating. The government has become a business. So a point where they're getting paid for you to park, they're getting paid for you, whether that's outside your house. I mean, my sister-in-law worked in Brighton in the hospital, and she used to have to get a parking permit. She'd done 12 hours working for the hospital, come home, could park for 2 hours outside her house that she bought and paid rates on, and then she'd have to get up every 2 hours to move her car, or they'd clamp it or take her car.
Wow.
And she couldn't have a resident permit, and she's working a 12-hour shift. She's just finished. So and you say, how's it a spend or investment? Because if you don't see where you're being affected, and I don't know whether I could have done a nice wholesome one, and I can do the everyday stuff. But if we want the truth, the core raw truth, really look at where your money's going, not just the money you got. Where your pension, you're paying for your pension now. Years ago, you part of your national insurance, and your government got your pension. You paid your taxes, and they gave you your pension. Nowadays, you're paying your taxes and you're paying your pension. At some point, and then when the budgets come in, the budgets are taken from one to give to another. When they feel they didn't get it right, people kick up, they wind it back a bit. When they say they're going to put a penny on fuel, you go, why is this important? It sounds very political. It ain't. Do an audit on who's taking your money before you get it. That's one. Do an audit then when you get your money, who's taking your money once you get it. And how much of that is your money? Because if you're getting £1 and you're going in and you're buying something that's got VAT on it, your market value of that pound, if it's 22% VAT, is 78 pence. You're walking around with £1 in your pocket and you think it's £1. No, it's 78 pence. Then you've got the rates to go on that. There's probably about another 10 pence. So now your purchasing value has gone from £1, to 70 pence.
Wow. Let me just digest that, because that's massive. That's massive. The reality here is, and in our last sort of 2 minutes here, the reality is that we are actually, when we think about, cost and investment, the cost is actually being put in our life subconsciously, we could say, because of how we live in. And then we are blaming the cost. We are putting the cost into other things, which are investments. Let's take, good networking, ECI. Let's go to there. That's an investment. I know that for myself. But for most, they would see that as a cost, not because that's a cost, but because everything else is a cost in life that you're not looking at. And they just transferred in
Well,
that cost
well,
to
there's the
other,
money
other.
part and the time part, because where you put your time, and if we took it just as general, like a mum and dad or whatever, or a same-sex couple bringing up kids, whatever, yeah, trying to be wholesome with the language, yeah, a lot of things are changing really fast, very hard to keep up with it, is whatever area of life we're in, is who's making the rules and the regulations, who's deciding how much it costs. Because the reason we need the big salaries is because we need, I mean, some people now earn £100,000 a year and they can't make ends meet.
Wow.
And they've done the do. They've gone and done the exams and come out with the right certificate. Got to put the nose to the grindstone. People are being consumed. And if you really want to see consumption, wait for the next budget. Whether it's our side of the water or your side of the water. Somebody that we call the government, committees, human beings sitting down that don't have to worry about the price of electric, don't have to worry about Christmas presents and how much they cost, don't have to go and get stuff on the never, never. They're making big decisions that in fact affect our life. One of the things that needs to change, which is an investment, is that vote you give. Because that's your power. That's the biggest investment you can make in your life, is make sure that vote, regardless of the colour, or the colour of the flag, colour of the skin, or the community, that vote is your highest value in making change. That's the first thing. And what company you choose to work for is the second, because where are you going to work? Now, a lot of people choose to work somewhere because they want the salary, because they want the nice suits, the clothes, the car, they want the home. But the home, the reason house prices are so dear in London, let's say as an example, is because that's where the majority of money's made. And then it's the next city to that, the next city to that. And when we get out to the outer boroughs, yeah, I mean, now people commute from Northampton to London. I remember houses in Northampton, yeah, a big house, it'd be 20 or 30 grand.
Yeah.
Now you're on about probably 500 or 600. I was talking to a guy the other day, and I thought the house of property around Mayfair would be around like 6.5, 7 million. He said, "Oh no," he said, "the house there 28 million. Sell." And I'm not against it. But the point is, at some point, we have to say, because inflation is a tax.
Yeah.
We have to stop. We have to level up. And the people that's making decisions need to cop on a little bit, because they're affecting too many people's lives. Yeah. It's not about government, because it isn't government. It's individuals we're giving our vote to, and we're getting sold. We're getting, I mean, good marketing message when it comes around. Do your audit. Sit down and do your audit. And when they come round, show them how much they're taking, and just say enough is enough.
Yeah.
If you're being consumed in work or in life, and I've been doing it myself lately, enough is enough. Stop consuming me. And I'm not in defense of it. Some people will serve you really well, but some people will tax you really well as well.
Wow, I love that. I love that. You're right. Some people will serve you and some people will tax you.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
So it sounds a bit like a gripe towards the government. Maybe this one isn't. We, not you, because it's we all have to be aware of where our money's going and why.
Yeah.
And why we're feeling sometimes that, in a sense, we're giving too much for so little, or we're working so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the old days, they used to talk about disposable income.
I remember those words.
Oh, yeah. Now it's very slim. Yeah. I mean, look at whether it's an investment in your life, whether that, and you need mental health stuff. You need to go to the gym. You need to have the odd night out. Yeah. You need to have the odd weekend away. These are things we need. They're not a luxury. If we're working really hard, they're things we need. Yeah. And if we're not serving the asset, the human's the asset, not the government, not the salary, the human first. How much is it taking away from you because of certain rules and regulations or things you have to apply? And that's not to turn it into sort of anarchy and get on the streets. Nothing like that. It's when we're informed and we know and we can see it and we can show it. The power in hundreds of thousands of people honourably just going, no protest, well, this is what it's costing me. And when they come round your door, change it, because you can change it. You can change it in the next election. You can change it and then they'll give you all the reasons. Don't want reasons. Go and solve it. Because if it was a business, bear in mind, every business and every home is affected by the administration and whether the metrics are right in government. And every business and every home is affected by the decisions the business makes and the homeowner makes, because your salary is going to be cut if the business metrics aren't right.
Yeah.
If you're overspending, you're going to be looking for another job, so the business gets affected. We're all in it together, whether it's government, whether it's employees or employers. But if we're not conscious of the decisions we make and we haven't done an audit of where our money's going, then, I mean, that's being a busy fool. I've got to shoot anyway.
Let's pull it in there, because conscious and audit. If you're not conscious and you haven't done your audit, then how do we know what is a cost or what is an investment? You're absolutely, this has been such a deep dive. I didn't know what direction we were going to go in.
Nor did I,
went the right place, because as usual, it's cutting edge. Use it as it is. Take it for what it is. It's beautiful. It's been a fantastic.
You can't make an apple pie without apples, mate.
You're not. I love it. So true. This has been fantastic. Another amazing, of course, Extreme Business Set Mind podcast, webinar, deep dive with a wonderful Lee Tunnyware, myself, Paul Rees presenting, keeping things in line as we go along. It's all beautifully and amazing. Lee, thank you ever so much for your wisdom and your heart this week. And listeners, of course, and those watching on YouTube, don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, and all the beautiful things that keep this channel going, because without you, there's no purpose. And of course, Lee has got somewhere to come every week, although trust me, he's in demand. He gives his time every week, and it is a luxury. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunnyware. I mean, you are a dad of 11, a husband, and you give this time to us every Monday. It's beautiful. Until this time next week, our loyal watchers, listeners, and all you, we love you bits. I'll see you soon, and boom, and bye for now.